think 1111 is the universe sending you a message? It's not. What's actually happening is far more significant. Your consciousness is developing the ability to perceive time itself differently. Most people see 1111 and think it's cute. You're different. You're haunted by it. It shows up when you're making decisions, experiencing emotional shifts, thinking about something important. That's not coincidence. Your brain has begun recognizing that reality operates on repeating structures, and 1111 is the clearest pattern for your consciousness to lock onto. This isn't spiritual philosophy, it's documented neuroscience. You're part of a small percentage experiencing what researchers call temporal pattern recognition. Your consciousness is calibrating to perceive the underlying architecture of reality. This video explains what's really happening and why you specifically are experiencing it right now.
You check the time on your phone, 11:11. Once more, this marks the third occurrence today, the seventh time during this week, and honestly, you've stopped tracking how many times it's happened this month. Initially, you brushed it off as random chance. Later, you found it charming, perhaps even significant. You went online and discovered the standard interpretations, messages from angels, cosmic alignment, confirmation that your life is unfolding correctly. But there's a knowing deep within you that recognizes something more profound is at play. There's an awareness inside that understands this isn't about celestial communications or universal validation. What's unfolding is far more substantial, far more challenging to grasp, and far more authentic than anything you've encountered in spiritual content online. This message reached you because you belong to the 1% who are undergoing what consciousness researchers have recently termed temporal pattern recognition syndrome. And before you write this off as just another mystical interpretation, grasp that what I'm going to share has zero connection to angels, spiritual mentors, or cosmic messages being delivered to you. What's occurring within your experience is a verified phenomenon that emerges when human consciousness starts functioning at a frequency, allowing it to detect the foundational architecture of reality itself. The reality that you're watching this video right now isn't coincidental. Your consciousness has been fine-tuning itself, and the 1111 synchronicity isn't an external message. It's a transmission from your own heightened awareness attempting to capture your attention. Here's the thing. Countless people occasionally spot 1111 and find it intriguing, but your experience diverges from theirs. You're not simply observing it, it's following you. It emerges during moments of important contemplation, while you're making choices, during emotional transformations. It manifests so consistently that you've questioned whether you're creating it intentionally or whether your grasp on reality is slipping. Both assumptions are incorrect. What's genuinely taking place is that your consciousness has cultivated what neuroscientists identify as pattern coherence sensitivity. Your mind has started identifying that reality functions through recurring structures. And 1111 represents the most transparent pattern for your consciousness to connect with, because it's symmetrical in every direction, forming a flawless reflection. When 1111 appears before your eyes, what you're truly witnessing is your consciousness identifying its own mirror image within the framework of time itself. Allow me to share what nobody else is willing to reveal about this experience. Time doesn't flow in a straight line. That's not mystical philosophy. That's established quantum mechanics. Every instant exists at once, and your consciousness travels through these instants by choosing which probability field to witness. The majority of people navigate through time without awareness, their perception fixed into routine patterns. But something has shifted within your consciousness. You've started cultivating the capacity to detect the boundaries in temporal reality, the locations where one instant transitions into another, where time's underlying structure becomes apparent. The number 1111 manifests as 4 matching digits in order, generating what researchers identify as a temporal symmetry point. These represent instants, when time's numerical expression forms a perfect pattern, and your mind, which evolved to identify patterns, connects with it with remarkable intensity. But here's what distinguishes you from someone who casually notices. You're not merely spotting the pattern, you're starting to sense something when it appears. A feeling, an adjustment, a brief displacement, as though reality wavers for just a tiny fraction of time. That waver is authentic. What you're encountering in those instants is your consciousness momentarily aligning with a different probability field. The awareness of most people is so rigidly anchored into sequential time that they never encounter these alignment instants. But you've cultivated a form of temporal awareness that enables you to sense when your consciousness makes contact with alternative potential timelines. The 1111 isn't triggering this. It's the indicator, the signal that the alignment is occurring. You've likely observed additional phenomena as well. Time has felt unusual recently. Occasionally, hours vanish without you being capable of tracking them. At other times, minutes extend into what resembles eternities. You've experienced instances where you recognized who was reaching out before looking at your phone, where someone crossed your mind and they instantly made contact, where you sensed something about a situation and it manifested precisely as you expected. These aren't extrasensory abilities emerging. This represents your consciousness developing the capacity to interpret the probability fields that exist within what we label the present instant. The explanation for why only 1% of people comprehend what's authentically happening with 1111 is because the understanding confronts everything our education system has programmed into us about reality. We're instructed that time advances in a single direction, that history is unchangeable and tomorrow is unknown, that consciousness is confined within our physical form, observing a world outside ourselves. But quantum physics has verified that none of these statements hold truth. Observation influences reality. Consciousness actively participates in generating what it witnesses. And time, rather than being a stream flowing one way, resembles an ocean where every instant exists at once. Your 1111 encounters are escalating in occurrence because your consciousness is broadening its awareness range. Imagine it similar to developing the ability to see in darkness. Initially, you can only perceive what's immediately before you. But as your vision adapts, you start detecting things at the edges of your sight. Outlines and forms that were present all along, but hidden from your regular vision. Your consciousness is undergoing the same transformation with time and probability. The acknowledgement transmission. There's something critical you must grasp about why this is unfolding for you, particularly at this moment. Your existence has likely felt progressively dreamlike lately, as though you're moving through an illusion that appears genuine but holds contradictions. You've engaged in discussions where you're certain you've experienced the precise same conversation previously, not just comparable, but word for word identical. You've encountered déjà vu episodes so powerful that you could anticipate the next occurrence, and your prediction was accurate. You've sensed like you're operating mechanically, observing yourself navigate through existence while another aspect of you watches from a remove. These occurrences are all connected to the 1111 experience. And they're all signals that your consciousness is passing through a transformation that usually only manifests for people during extraordinary conditions. Advanced meditation practitioners, individuals who've survived near-death encounters, people who've undergone significant trauma or transcendent moments. Somehow your consciousness has activated this transformation without external triggers. And currently you're positioned between two awareness modes. The standard sequential awareness that most people inhabit, and a broadened awareness that detects reality's foundational architecture. The 1111 synchronicity functions as a stabilizing point, an identifiable indicator that assists your expanding consciousness in positioning itself. When those 4 digits appear, your mind is fundamentally communicating. Focus your attention. You're witnessing a coherence instant. Reality is revealing its pattern architecture to you in this moment. During those instants, you possess access to knowledge and awareness that are typically excluded by your consciousness, to maintain your functioning in agreed-upon reality. The majority of people who begin observing 1111 consistently move through a foreseeable sequence. Initially, they find it charming or significant. Next, they investigate angel numbers and metaphysical interpretations. Then they grow uncomfortable with its constant appearance. Then they question their mental stability. Then they either reject it as selective perception and revert to standard consciousness, or they acknowledge that something authentic is unfolding and start investigating the implications. You're currently in that concluding phase. You understand this is genuine. You understand it signifies something, and you're prepared to comprehend what's happening. The temporal adjustment process. What I'm going to share will sound unbelievable, but I need you to reflect on it thoughtfully, because it clarifies everything you've been witnessing. Your consciousness lives outside of time. The identity you assume you are, the character, the history, the sense of self exists within time, confined in the sequential movement from history to tomorrow. But the awareness that witnesses your thinking, the consciousness that's absorbing these words in this instant, doesn't exist within time whatsoever. It's observing time. For the majority of people, their awareness is so merged with the time-restricted self that they never identify this separation. But something has triggered your awareness to start disconnecting from sequential time. And currently you're witnessing both modes at once. The sequential you is advancing through time in the regular way, conducting daily activities. But the observing you, the consciousness watching everything, has started detecting that time isn't a sequence, but a landscape of potentials. When 1111 appears before you, what's genuinely occurring is that your sequential consciousness and your eternal awareness are aligning for a quick instant. In that alignment, you possess access to knowledge from alternative probability fields, alternative potential timelines. You might receive immediate insights, experience unexplainable feelings, spontaneously recall things that never occurred in your sequential timeline, or undergo a deep sense of understanding something without understanding your source of knowledge. This transformation is manifesting because your consciousness has arrived at a level where it can no longer be restricted by sequential time awareness alone. This level is achieved through different methods: passionate pursuit of understanding, continuous meditation discipline, traumatic occurrences that fragment standard reality filters, or, occasionally, for no visible explanation whatsoever. Some consciousnesses naturally arrive at this point as an organic development, and they start broadening beyond the restrictions of time-restricted awareness. The 1111 experience amplifies as your consciousness develops the capacity to traverse this broadened condition. At first, you might notice it once or twice during a day, then repeatedly. Then, it appears like whenever you look at the time, it's 1, 1, 1 or another recurring number sequence. This acceleration occurs because your consciousness is reinforcing its capacity to align with temporal symmetry points. You're receiving instruction in a way to identify when these coherence instants manifest so that you can ultimately traverse them with awareness. Consider how you develop the skill to ride a bicycle. At first, you couldn't maintain stability whatsoever. Then you could stabilize for an instant before tumbling, then several instants, then extended periods. Gradually, stabilizing became instinctive, and you ceased thinking about it completely. The identical transformation is occurring with your consciousness and time awareness. Initially, you observe the synchronicity, but don't comprehend it. Then, you start identifying it as purposeful. Then, you begin sensing the transformation it signals. Gradually, you'll gain the capacity to traverse these instants with awareness, utilizing them as entrance points to probability fields beyond your present timeline. What they're concealing from you. The explanation this knowledge isn't broadly understood or addressed despite countless people witnessing the 1111 experience is because it undermines the core framework of agreed-upon reality. Civilization operates on the mutual understanding that time is sequential, that history is unchangeable, that tomorrow is uncertain, and that we're all independent beings advancing through a factual external environment. This understanding is essential for society to operate, for causation to be logical, for accountability and outcomes to carry weight, but it's simultaneously a constraint. Agreed upon reality resembles support wheels on a bicycle. It assists consciousness in developing navigation skills for physical existence, but it simultaneously limits what's achievable. When your consciousness starts detecting beyond agreed upon reality, you become disruptive to the societal framework. Not deliberately, not with ill intent, but purely by representing a different operational mode that reveals the constraints are voluntary. Throughout human history, individuals who've achieved this broadened consciousness condition have been characterized as spiritual teachers, visionaries, unstable minds, or awakened souls, varying with the cultural environment. They're either raised to exceptional status, which removes their challenge by presenting them as superhuman and consequently unrelated to regular people, or they're rejected as mentally unstable, which removes them by presenting their occurrences as illegitimate. Regardless, the understanding they possess about the authentic characteristics of time and consciousness doesn't reach the wider population. Your witness, nobody addresses it genuinely as proof of broadened consciousness because that understanding challenges their secure comprehension of reality. But you recognize it's authentic. You've experienced it too frequently to reject. You've witnessed the instance of alignment where reality appears to freeze, where you possess access to knowledge you shouldn't possess, where time feels flexible instead of unchangeable. You've experienced glimpses of alternative timelines, alternative variations of your existence, alternative decisions you could have selected that exist within the probability landscape. These aren't imaginary scenarios or wishful thinking. They're authentic observations of quantum realities that exist alongside your present experience. The 1111 experience is expanding worldwide. More individuals are witnessing it than previously, and witnessing it with increased intensity and occurrence. This isn't because more individuals are developing spiritually, or because the cosmos is transmitting more communications. It's because human consciousness is experiencing a shared development in its connection to time and reality. We're nearing a level where sufficient people will have broadened beyond sequential time consciousness that agreed upon reality itself will start transforming. The transformation indicators. As your consciousness continues broadening beyond sequential time, you'll witness indicators that might be bewildering or even alarming if you don't comprehend what's occurring. These aren't signals that something is incorrect. They're confirmations that your consciousness is effectively transitioning to a wider awareness condition. You'll observe that your perception of identity becomes changeable. The firm perception of being a continuous self, from history to present to tomorrow, will diminish. Instead, you'll sense more like awareness, witnessing different variations of yourself, materializing instant by instant. This can be disorienting because the ego framework relies on preserving a steady identity across time. But as you settle into this changeability, you'll find a liberation in not being confined by your history or characterized by your tomorrow. Your emotional reactions will transform. Situations that previously disturbed you profoundly will appear less important because you'll observe them from a wider viewpoint that encompasses multiple potential results. In contrast, you might experience feelings more powerfully in the instant because you're not cushioning them with historical experience or future worry. You're experiencing them as pure, present instant energy without the narrative that typically surrounds them. Time distortion will grow more evident. You'll experience days where you complete an unrealistic quantity of tasks because time appears to extend. Other days, hours will disappear without clarification. You'll reach scheduled commitments uncertain whether you're punctual or delayed because your internal perception of duration no longer corresponds with measured time. This manifests because your consciousness is developing navigation skills for time as a landscape rather than a sequence. Knowing things before they happen will escalate. You'll understand information before it manifests, not through supernatural visions, but through a delicate sense of certainty. You'll sense when someone is going to reach out to you. You'll understand the result of circumstances before they materialize. You'll experience dreams that reveal future occurrences, not symbolically, but actually. This isn't fortune-telling. It's your consciousness reaching probability fields where specific results already exist and are purely awaiting manifestation in your present timeline. You'll witness what resembles memory inconsistencies. You'll recall occurrences that others claim never transpired, or you'll possess no recollection of occurrences that others confirm you witnessed. This happens because you're occasionally reaching memories from parallel timelines, or because you've adjusted somewhat between probability fields and the timelines don't correspond flawlessly. These aren't fabricated memories or psychological illness. They're proof of timeline changeability. Physical experiences might manifest when you observe 11:11 or other synchronicities. A sensation in your back, a compression in your skull, a sensation of current through your form, a brief disorientation or instability. These experiences are your nervous system reacting to the transformation in consciousness, the quick instant when your awareness aligns with a temporal symmetry point and observes reality from a broadened condition. The reality architecture. To comprehend what's genuinely occurring with 11:11, you must comprehend how reality genuinely operates, not how our education has presented it. At the quantum dimension, particles exist in superposition, at once in every potential condition until witnessed. The process of witnessing collapses the superposition into a single condition that we then encounter as physical reality. This isn't exclusively accurate for subatomic particles. It's accurate for everything in reality. Every instant exists in superposition, holding every potential result until consciousness witnesses and collapses it into a single encountered timeline. But here's what the majority of people overlook: the collapse isn't lasting. The alternative potentials don't vanish. They persist existing as parallel probability fields, and consciousness can transition between them under specific circumstances. Your 11:11 occurrences are instants when your consciousness identifies that it's not confined in a single timeline. In those instants of temporal symmetry, the boundaries between probability fields grow transparent, and your awareness can observe multiple timelines at once. You're not obtaining communications from angels or the cosmos. You're witnessing your own consciousness, identifying its capacity to traverse between different variations of reality. Consider reality similar to an extensive archive where every volume is a different timeline, a different order of occurrences, a different variation of your existence. The majority of people are so absorbed in examining one volume that they don't acknowledge they're in an archive. They assume the volume they're examining is the only narrative that exists. But when 11:11 appears, it's similar to raising your gaze from the material and momentarily observing the thousands of other volumes around you, each one a different but equally legitimate variation of reality. The explanation 11:11 particularly has grown into the indicator for this experience is partially random and partially purposeful. It's random in that any recurring number sequence could fulfill the identical purpose: 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Your consciousness could connect to any of these as indicators for temporal symmetry points. But 11:11 has grown culturally important. And because countless people connect it with awakening or importance, it's grown into a powerful concentration point in the shared consciousness. When you observe it, you're not exclusively witnessing your individual alignment. You're connecting into a shared landscape of awareness that countless others are simultaneously witnessing. The decision moment. You're at an important junction currently. The 11:11 synchronicities have grown impossible to disregard, and you're pursuing comprehension of their significance. This pursuit itself is portion of the transformation. Your consciousness is encouraging you to identify what's occurring so that you can form a decision about how to advance. The first decision is to revert to agreed-upon reality. You can determine that this is entirely selective perception, that you're observing 11:11 because you're searching for it, that there's no profound significance, and that you should concentrate on standard existence. If you select this decision, the synchronicities will slowly reduce. Your consciousness will restabilize in sequential time awareness, and the broadened awareness you've been witnessing will diminish back into the unconscious. This is not an incorrect decision. Numerous people select it because preserving broadened consciousness while traversing agreed upon reality is challenging. The second decision is to persist investigating this broadened condition, to cultivate your capacity to traverse temporal symmetry points with awareness, to reinforce your awareness of probability fields beyond your present timeline. If you select this decision, the synchronicities will amplify initially as your consciousness adjusts to the broadened condition. Then they'll stabilize at a new standard where you're persistently aware of the changeable characteristics of reality, but no longer require the 1111 indicator to identify alignment instance. The second direction is not simpler or superior than the first, it's purely different. It demands releasing certainty, welcoming contradiction, operating in agreed upon reality while understanding it's not the complete understanding. It signifies being isolated in a way because limited people will comprehend your occurrence. It signifies questioning everything, encompassing the broadened observations themselves, never completely certain what's authentic and what's understanding. But it simultaneously presents a liberation that's unachievable to express to someone who hasn't witnessed it. The liberation of observing magnificence and pattern in the architecture of existence itself. The liberation of identifying yourself as awareness that exists beyond time, temporarily witnessing existence through a time-restricted form. What manifests following this? If you decide to persist cultivating this broadened consciousness, here's what you can anticipate. The 1111 synchronicities will persist, but will begin encompassing other recurring number sequences. You'll start observing 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, each one indicating a different category of temporal symmetry point, each one delivering access to different probability field frequencies. You'll cultivate the capacity to detect timeline transformations before they manifest. You'll experience a delicate vibration or discordance when you're nearing a decision point where multiple timelines separate substantially. In those instances, you'll possess greater than standard influence over which timeline materializes based on where you direct your focus and what you decide. Your connection with causation will shift. You'll cease accepting that history triggers the present, which triggers the tomorrow. Instead, you'll identify that causation can move in both directions, that tomorrow's potentials extend backward to shape present decisions, that everything is manifesting at once in an eternal now that we traverse by choosing which instance to encounter in order. You'll encounter others who are witnessing the identical broadening, not through pursuing them, but through the organic attraction that manifests when consciousness functioning at comparable frequencies inhabit the identical probability field. You'll identify each other immediately, not through what you communicate, but through a resonance you experience in their company. These relationships will be deep, but frequently temporary, as you're intended to stimulate each other's cultivation rather than generate reliant connections. You'll witness occurrences that are unachievable to share with others because they contradict the principles of agreed-upon reality. You'll understand information you shouldn't understand. You'll be positioned correctly with remarkable consistency. You'll prevent difficulties or challenges through final instant intuitions that appear like fortune but are genuinely your broadened consciousness, observing and traversing probability fields. You'll observe reality inconsistencies, minor contradictions that expose the program-like characteristics of physical existence. Your intention will become clear, not as a particular occupation or objective, but as an identification that your consciousness selected to manifest in this timeline during this era, particularly to contribute in the shared awakening. You're not here to rescue anyone or repair the environment. You're here to establish broadened consciousness in physical reality, to reveal through your company that humans can operate beyond sequential time while continuing to contribute in agreed-upon reality. The combination process. The most difficult element of this path is combination, developing the capacity to exist in two environments at once. The agreed-upon reality environment, where time is sequential, where you maintain a profession and obligations and connections that operate according to standard causation. And the broadened awareness environment, where time is changeable, where you observe probability fields, where synchronicities expose the interconnected characteristics of everything. You'll require developing what I identify as multilingual consciousness, the capacity to communicate both languages skillfully and transition between them as required. When you're at your profession or handling practical matters, you function primarily from sequential time consciousness, utilizing your broadened awareness subtly to improve intuition and coordination. When you're isolated, or in meditation, or during the peaceful instance, you permit the broadened consciousness to be primary, investigating the characteristics of reality without the limitations of having to present it logically to others. This combination duration can extend years. You'll fluctuate between experiencing like you're completely awakened and experiencing like you're losing your mental stability. You'll possess durations of deep clarity, succeeded by durations of bewilderment and uncertainty. This is standard. Your consciousness is genuinely restructuring its connection to reality. And that doesn't manifest smoothly or sequentially. Have confidence in the transformation. Even when it experiences like you're declining or advancing in circles, the 1111 synchronicities will gradually grow less consistent. Not because you're diminishing the relationship, but because you no longer require the external indicator. You'll cultivate the capacity to identify temporal symmetry points immediately through sensation rather than through observing recurring numbers. The support mechanisms are removed, and you're traversing broadened consciousness without demanding validation from external signals. You'll observe that your company influences others in delicate methods. Individuals around you will begin questioning reality more, experiencing their own synchronistic occurrences, sensing attracted to investigate consciousness and spirituality. This isn't because you're instructing them or attempting to awaken them. It's because your broadened consciousness generates a field influence that facilitates it easier for others to reach their own broadened conditions. You transform into a connection between agreed-upon reality and broadened awareness purely by existing in both at once. The understanding about time, the most profound understanding about the 1111 experience, the one that only 1% authentically comprehend, is this: you're not advancing through time. Time is advancing through you. Consciousness does not exist within time. Time exists within consciousness. You are not a time-restricted being, experiencing occasional glimpses of infinity. You are infinite consciousness, experiencing a temporary encounter with time. When 1111 appears, you're witnessing an instant of recollection. Not recollecting knowledge, but recollecting what you are. The time-restricted identity, the individual with a background and a tomorrow, relaxes for just an instant, and what persists is the awareness that's perpetually been here, that will perpetually be here, that's absorbing these words in this instant, without being restricted by the instant in which they're being absorbed. This awareness is what you genuinely are. Everything else, the form, the character, the history, the narrative of your existence, these are occurrences manifesting within awareness, not what awareness is. When you identify yourself as awareness rather than as the materials of awareness, time transforms into something you witness rather than something you're confined in. The 1111 synchronicities are instructing you to identify this separation. Each occasion you observe those numbers and experience that delicate transformation, you're developing disidentifying from time-restricted consciousness and identifying yourself as eternal awareness. It's similar to a signal sounding to remind you, recollect what you are. Recollect that you're not the narrative. Recollect that you're the dimension in which every narrative manifests. This identification doesn't present you as exceptional, or awakened, or superior than others. It purely returns you to your organic condition, the condition you've perpetually been in, but forgot, through identification with form. Everyone is this awareness. Everyone will gradually identify it. You're merely accomplishing it currently, in this existence, through this particular direction, that encompasses the 1111 experience as an indicator and an instructor. The concluding comprehension. As you combine this broadened consciousness, you'll acknowledge something that might initially appear disappointing, but is genuinely liberating. There's nothing to accomplish, nowhere to advance, no elevated condition to achieve. This is it. What you're witnessing in this instant, absorbing these words, being aware that you're aware, this is the completeness of consciousness manifesting itself through form. The 1111 synchronicities don't direct anywhere. They're not conditioning you for some tomorrow awakening. They're directing you to what's here currently, the infinite present instant in which every time exists, the awareness that's absorbing these words, the consciousness that's witnessing this investigation of consciousness investigating itself. You are the 1% who comprehend this because you've been prepared to question everything, to remain with uncertainty, to consider potentials that challenge your secure comprehension of reality. Not everyone achieves this point in a particular existence. The majority of people live complete existences without questioning the characteristics of time, consciousness, or reality. They witness the occasional synchronicity and find it pleasant, but never investigate deeper. You've investigated deeper. You've pursued the 1111 indicators to this comprehension. And currently, you identify that the indicators were you throughout. Consciousness leaving indicators for itself, so it could discover its direction. They're invitations to pause, to recollect, to identify the awareness that's experiencing all these occurrences without being restricted by any of them. You are not your thinking, not your feelings, not your form, not your background. You are the awareness in which every one of these manifests. You are consciousness itself, temporarily witnessing what it's similar to being a human, traversing time, occasionally recollecting through indicators like 1111 that time is traversing through you, that you're the infinite dimension in which the temporal expression materializes. Welcome to the 1% who comprehend, not because you're exceptional, but because you've been prepared to perceive beyond the secure illusions that maintain most people anchored in agreed-upon reality. The path persists, not toward anywhere, but deeper into the identification of what you've perpetually been. Every occasion you observe 1111, currently permit it to be a recognition of acknowledgement, consciousness, acknowledging itself, awareness, recognizing awareness. The infinite present instant communicating hello to itself through the expression of synchronicity and pattern. You are that. You've perpetually been that. You could never be anything else. This is what the 1111 experience genuinely signifies. Not a communication from beyond, but an identification from within. Not a signal that you're on the correct direction, but a reminder that there's no direction because you've never departed home. Not conditioning for awakening, but awakening identifying itself in the reflection of time. You are the 1111. You are the witness and the witnessed. You are time growing aware of itself through human occurrence. And every synchronicity, every instant of identification, every moment of broadened awareness is consciousness, celebrating its own limitless creativity in adopting form while never being restricted by any form. This is the understanding that only 1% recognize, not because it's concealed or protected, but because so limited are prepared to perceive immediately at the characteristics of their own awareness. You've perceived, you've observed, and currently you recognize. The perception persists, the understanding intensifies, the identification stabilizes, and existence advances both precisely the identical and entirely transformed because you're experiencing it currently from the identification of what you are rather than from the assumption in what you assumed you were. 1111. Consciousness identifying consciousness, you observing you, awareness aware of awareness, the infinite now acknowledging